Tanzania, a country often celebrated for its stability and booming tourism, has in recent weeks entered a period of intense political tension. What began as an election season has quickly transformed into widespread unrest, as many citizens feel excluded and unheard. With protests erupting in major cities, curfews declared, and the internet shuttered, the relationship between the ruling establishment and everyday Tanzanians is under dramatic strain. In this video we'll unpack how Tanzania got here, the build-up, the dramatic election day, and the volatile situation today. How it started. For years now, the ruling party Chama-cha-mapinduzi (CCM) has held firm control over Tanzania's political life since independence in 1961. While there have been multi-party elections, critics say the playing field has been increasingly skewed. Opposition parties face legal and practical barriers, media and civic space are constrained, and dissent is risky. Amnesty International. As the 2025 election approached, pressure mounted. The main opposition party Chadema was barred from the polls. Its leader Tundu Lissu was jailed on treason charges. Many ordinary Tanzanians were frustrated. They saw elections where the outcome seemed predetermined, their voices undervalued, and the institutions meant to oversee fairness compromised. The backdrop: economic cost pressures, youth unemployment, rising expectations, and a sense among many that change was elusive. What really happened during the election? On October 29, 2025, Tanzania held its general election for president, parliament, and local councils. But the process quickly became contested. The main challengers were disqualified or detained. For example, Lissu was out of the race and another major opposition candidate, Mpina, was barred. As voting proceeded, many citizens stayed away. Turnout was reportedly low in several areas. Then in the afternoon and evening chaos erupted. In the commercial capital Dar es Salaam and other cities, protesters took to the streets. They burned vehicles, blocked roads, attacked polling stations in some cases. In response, the government imposed curfews, shut down the internet, deployed the military and security forces. The electoral body announced sweeping leads for the incumbent, Sumia-Hassan, of CCM, before full independent verification was possible, which added to the sense of fraud among critics. Human rights groups reported deaths and injuries in the clashes, and called for investigations into the force used by police. In short, an election where key opposition voices were silenced, public trust was weak, and the outbreak of violence made the event current situation. In the days following the election, the situation remains fluid and tense. Protests have continued for multiple days, especially in Dar es Salaam, Arusha, and other urban centers. The military and security forces are heavily deployed. Curfews remain, movement is restricted, and many public services are disrupted. Internet services remain intermittent after the shutdown, and communication is unreliable for many citizens. Opposition groups and civil society accuse the government of turning the vote into a coronation rather than a contest. The international community is watching. Travel advisories have been issued, including by the U.S. Embassy, because safety remains uncertain. For everyday Tanzanians, this means uncertainty, questions about rights, questions about what comes next, and a weariness that the status quo might simply repeat. Meanwhile, for the government, the challenge is twofold: maintain order and legitimacy on one side, while containing dissent and managing the optics of power on the other. The protests were triggered by several key grievances. Major opposition figures being jailed or disqualified, claims that the vote was largely uncontested, and fears that the ruling party, Chama-cha-mapinduzi (CCM), was simply extending its decades-long dominance. As tension mounted, the government responded with significant security and communication measures. A curfew was imposed in Dar es Salaam starting at 6 p.m. The military was deployed in key urban centers and along transport corridors, and nationwide internet disruptions were reported, effectively limiting both physical movement and digital communications. Violent clashes ensued. Protesters burned buses and police stations, attacked polling stations, and security forces responded with tear gas and, according to human rights organizations, live ammunition in some instances. At least 2 deaths, 1 civilian, 1 police officer, have been officially reported, though some sources suggest the toll may be higher. Business, transport, and everyday life have been disrupted. Roadblocks, military man checkpoints and suspensions of services, including ferries to the semi-autonomous region of Zanzibar, show how the unrest is having ripple effects. Africa News. In short, what started as an election day has morphed into a broader expression of discontent. The protests reflect deep-seated frustration, not just with one vote, but with a system many believe offers little real democratic choice. The government is trying to contain things through security and control of information, but the unrest suggests a more volatile phase of Tanzanian politics. October 29, 2025, was one of the most significant days in Tanzania, when voters were supposed to exercise their civic duty. However, protests broke out in Dar es Salaam, the country's largest city, and several other cities during the vote. Demonstrators were enraged by the exclusion of the main opposition candidates in the presidential race, and what they say is the increasing repression of government critics. Tanzania police declared a curfew amid the growing unrest. The government deployed the military on the streets in a bid to restore public order following reports of vandalism, looting and attacks on polling stations, particularly in major cities. Internet disruptions were reported, and citizens had trouble communicating via mobile phones. Unverified reports say there have been several deaths following Wednesday's skirmishes. The election, which incumbent President Sumia-Hassan is widely expected to win, has been dominated by controversy, especially the treason trial of Tundu Lissu, leader of Chadema, Tanzania's main opposition party. Lissu's party was barred from competing after it refused to sign the Electoral Code of Conduct, citing the need for reforms. Othman Masoud, the presidential candidate for the ACT Wazalendo Party, another opposition party, was also barred from running. Vote counting is ongoing, and the state-run Tanzania Broadcasting Corporation has begun airing the announcement of provisional presidential election results, showing President Hassan has a commanding lead in various constituencies. Tanzania's government has deployed police to the streets after widespread protests against the sham election marred by a crackdown on dissent and the killing or disappearance of opposition figures. Crowds in several big cities, including Dar es Salaam, the commercial capital, and Arusha, a tourist gateway, chanted for the army to take over the country, in what some describe as the biggest challenge to the ruling party since independence in 1961. Amnesty International reported 2 people had been killed, though campaigners monitoring video footage said the final death toll was likely to be much higher. Authorities temporarily cut off much of the internet during the unrest. Dar es Salaam Regional Commissioner Albert Kalamila told journalists that security agencies were ready to deal with any disruptors of peace. NetBlocks, an internet access advocacy group, noted a nationwide disruption to internet connectivity. Human rights organizations have long accused Tanzania's administration of arresting, detaining and intimidating critics and opposition members. The leader of the main opposition Chadema party, Tundu Lissu, is in prison and faces treason charges after calling for electoral reforms, while the candidate of the second-largest opposition party was barred from running. Amnesty International said the atmosphere around the election was characterized by fear, saying it had verified cases of enforced disappearances, arbitrary arrests, and extrajudicial killings ahead of the polls. Preliminary election results were expected within 24 hours, but the Electoral Commission has up to 7 days to announce the final outcome. A spot check across dozens of polling stations revealed a low turnout, especially among younger voters. A university student, James Matonia, told the Associated Press he didn't vote because the election was a one-horse race. Hassan seeks her first full term as president after completing the term of her predecessor, John Magufuli, who died in 2021. 16 opposition candidates representing smaller parties were also on the ballot. There was no immediate public statement by the president or ruling party as events unfolded Wednesday. Tanzania has more than 37 million registered voters, a 26% increase from 2020, but analysts have warned of voter apathy, citing the perception that Hassan will cruise to victory unchallenged. An opposition party in Tanzania's semi-autonomous archipelago of Zanzibar, ACT Wazalendo, alleged that early voting on Tuesday by electoral and security officials cast ballots was marred by irregularities that included voters impersonating security officials and the barring of party representatives by electoral officials.